Hello everybody, my name is Mantis. Today I'm going to be making a video about how to work with, or how to make and work with external plugin APIs. So first things first, we got a test server right here, 1.20.2 paper, and I have disabled the end in bucket.yml and the nether in server.properties. That's not important though. And I only have these plugins as of now, these two, so I can join on a lower version, and just because why not. This one's for permission testing if we need that, and that's about it. So um, with that out of the way, let's give it a second. I gotta pull up another folder real quick. Okay, and I pulled up a uh, project directory with 3 different projects in it. Here's the main plugin and that we're going to be creating. Here's the API for the main plugin, and here's a random third-party plugin that we'll create to show how we can interact with the API from a different plugin. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first off, here's the main plugin. We have a generic build.gradle file. You can use Maven, doesn't matter. We have 1.20.2 Spigot API, and here's the repository. That's about it. We have the same thing in the API and the third-party plugin. Here, where I got this from, obviously, spigotmc.org/wiki/spigot-gradle, and you scroll down a little bit, and you can grab the. This was the. It didn't work without this URL here, the very first one, and Maven local, I believe. So, and then since this one is not updated since 1.19.3, I checked the spigot-maven. It's the same URL except Maven instead of Gradle. Scroll down, and here's the updated version or repository or dependency that you use instead, which is also, we can't find the Maven page. I figured it would be down here like Gradle is on the Maven page, but well, it's the same link pretty much. So there's that. I guess we can go ahead and get started. So we got anything here. Let's go ahead and make our package. You're gonna put in your generic package name, whatever you use normally. For me, that's the domain test plugin, because that's probably better than putting test. We'll make our main class. I'll never name it main. I'm just gonna call it. I'm gonna call it test plugin, so it's more specific to this plugin. So extends plugin. There we go. So here's our main class. Here's our enable. Disable. Go ahead and do get logger info test plugin enabled, and same thing down here. There we go. Not necessary, but it works. So we're gonna go ahead and make a sort of currency plugin with this, except we're not gonna have like data saving and all that. It's too complicated for this type of tutorial. But we'll have a custom event as well. So let's go ahead and make the currency here. Currency, I'll say test currency, so it doesn't interfere with whatever else is named currency. Let's say test currency test plugin. Private final hash map, UID, and we use long instead of double. Storage. Storage equals new hash map. We might not need the plugin here, but we'll use that. So here's that. Here's storage, and we're gonna go ahead and switch over to the API now. So we'll go use the API here. We're gonna use the same package. So we're gonna call it .api. And now new class interface. We'll call it let's see. We'll do really test API, and then we'll say we'll actually do another currency thing here. Test currency as another interface, and we'll do get long get UID. Import it. UID. Void set UID long amount, like that. And we'll do I think we'll do an add UID long amount and a subtract remove UID long amount. There we go. So there's that, and then this is all we need for this interface here. And we'll say in the test API we'll do test currency. It's like that. Okay, and then we will go ahead and we'll assemble it or build it, whatever, however you build your jar or compile it to a jar. There you go. So we got, don't move it, double click it, libs, here we go, test API. So now what you can do, there's two ways to put it into your main plugin or into any other third-party plugin. You can give people this jar, or you can upload it to GitHub and use Jetpack, or however else you store repositories or whatever. We're gonna do that. Make it. We can do actually here, if we're each using the jar, compile only files. I'm gonna say // so okay, it starts in this directory, I think. So // would go out one to API tutorial, and then we'll do test API / and it's in test API build libs. Copy. Cannot refer. Okay, never mind. Yeah. Build libs. Okay. Test API #1.0.0.jar. This should theoretically work. It'll reload. Thank you. Okay, so now we can do implements test API. There we go. Implement methods currency. There we go. And now we're gonna go to test currency. Implements. We're actually gonna refactor this one real quick. IMPL, meaning standing for implementation. And then we're gonna implement test currency from the API, and then we're going to implement these methods here. There we go. So now we can override the methods here. Storage get or default UID 0L for long. Storage put UID down, which we're going to rename to amount. amount set UID get UID plus amount. We're gonna do set UID get UID minus amount. Name this one first. So there's not going to be any negative checks in here. It's just a simple little setup we got going on, of course. So we don't actually need this, so we take that out. Okay. And now what we're gonna do is get a test plugin in the on enable new test. Actually, gotta go up here first. Private test currency implementation. Currency. This dot currency equals new test currency implementation. And then where it returns test currency, we're gonna say return currency. And it'll work because this object is technically this object, except it's implementing it, so it should work fine. And then yeah, so we got this, and now we're gonna do so I mean it's pretty ready to go right now as it is. We just need a way to actually set the currency and whatnot. So we'll do let's do, it might be easier than a command to do a listener add currency listener implements listener org.bucket.event public add currency listener test plugin get server to get plugin manager dot register events this plugin like that event handler with void on chat player chat event async player chat event. There we go. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take every time the player sends a message, we're gonna add 1 to their quote balance unquote. So we'll say private final test plugin and we'll say it's not plugin equals plugin. And now we'll go down here, get player UID. We might not need this actually, this because we're only gonna be using it once. Plugin.currency dot add this 1L. There we go. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Got interrupted a bit. Okay, so we have the listener test plugin. After we initialize currency, we're gonna do new add currency listener this because you're putting the plugin into it. Okay. And now we can go over to currency, test currency. Okay. We're gonna go back over to the API class and we're gonna just say new package events. I'm gonna do we're gonna say add currency event extend event implement get handlers. Alright, let me pull up something so I remember exactly what I'm doing here. Okay, I'm back and I've pulled up the resource using the event API just so I remember how to do this part. Whoops, specifically because because I always forget what I'm supposed to return here, because I barely ever do custom events. Or when I do, it's just readily available and I can like copy paste it or whatever. So it's spigotmc.org/wiki/using dash the dash event dash API. So pretty simple link. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna just copy this. So PC stutter. Okay. We're gonna do make this look a little better. Private static final handler lists handlers handler list, right? Public static handler list handlers. There we go. It is all there, right? And then now we're gonna implement whatever variables we want or need to implement. Because we'll do okay, yeah, we'll do private final player private final long amount. We'll not make a final amount. Public and currency event. Player long amount added. So then this dot player equals player. So amount added equals amount added, and then we'll add public player get player return player public long amount return amount added, and then we'll say public void set amount long amount that amount added equals amount. There we go. There's everything we need. And we'll copy and paste this for set currency event. Say amount set. To rename that, you just click on the variable and you hit Shift F6 when you're on PC, at least. I don't know about Mac. Or you can right click and click refactor, rename right there at the top. I don't know if you can see the top, but so amount set, and then we're also gonna do the same here. Amount set. There we go. And then we're gonna do another one. Remove currency event. Removed amount removed. There we go. Perfect. Everything is exactly what we need. Again, we're in the API class here, the API project. So there's that, and then we can go back here. I'm actually gonna refactor a little bit. I'm gonna do new package.api and remove currency in there. And then we're gonna make new listeners here. So instead of this, we're gonna say chat listener, and then we're gonna do here. We're gonna do what should we call it? We're gonna do sorry, add currency listener. I'm gonna say implements listener. Public add currency listener. That's plugin. We're basically doing the same thing as the other one. So plugin get server, get plugin manager, which events is plugin. Event handler public void. You know, I don't actually. I'm sorry. We don't need this in the main plugin here. We actually need it in the third-party plugin, which I got a little confused over. So my bad for that one. actually make a command real quick. That sorry, not commands. I'm gonna say currency command. Public currency command. Test plugin get command currency set executor this because we're gonna implement command executor methods. If you want a better way of adding commands, check out my previous tutorial on the Brigadier / Commodore tutorial. It's very helpful, I think. So there we go. These are currently yellow because they're supposed to be annotated as not null, but I don't feel like adding the annotation to my class path right at this moment. So we're gonna do if sender player because I don't feel like doing a console variant of the command for this tutorial because it's not really necessary. You guys should know how to do commands already. So if args length less than 1, we're gonna do private final test currency implementation and currency is dot currency equals plugin dot currency. I'm gonna move this one up there. Okay. There's actually implement test currency, not the implemented version. This is another way of using the API, by the way. Like you can use the API outside of the third-party plugin or in your plugin, but we're just gonna keep going on with what we're doing. So player send message currency dot get say final UID player dot UID. If you're not familiar with Java 17 for whatever reason, and you're wondering where I got player from, it's just from right here. When you use instance of, you can define the variable for the object that you're checking if it's the instance of, and as long as you return like whatever you're doing here, whenever you're done checking and you return, then it shouldn't be an issue to just use the player variable. Kind of like if you were to do final player equals player sender, this wouldn't work unless you handle this already in return. So it's the same premise. Doing that. So this checks their balance, and we'll do if arg0 equals it's add arg length less than 2 player send message select and amount turn true final long amount. Very good. There's the amount. Try long amount equals long dot parse long args 1 batch number format exception e player dot send message invalid amount plus args 1, and then we need to return as well. So let's expand this a bit. Return true. There we go. Currency dot add UID amount. What we're gonna do here, because this is how you add this in your plugin. That's how you add the currency. So we need to take bucket dot get server, or actually we can use plugin here instead of bucket. If we just take private final test plugin. We say plugin. What we could do, since we have plugin here and we're only using currency once, we'd say final as currency equals plugin currency. There we go. Also, if for whatever reason you need to use a method that you defined in the implemented version of the class, say for instance we have public void send player and you had player.send message test, for instance. If you wanted to use this method in your project, that's no problem. The only thing is you won't be able to if you use this here, because you have test currency, so it's acting as the API version. So you see there's no send method. You see it, yeah, so there's no send method. But if you wanted to, you can do implemented and then cast it to test currency implemented, and then now you have access to the send method, because you are assuming that the test currency that the main class is returning is an instance of the one you defined in your own plugin, and it should theoretically be in should theoretically work as long as it's defined plugin to currency, as long as it's returning the currency that's an instance of your custom defined one that implements the currency, right? If that didn't make any sense, I'm sorry, but that's the best explanation I can give at the moment. Basically, it's just you're taking your this okay. The method that we're using in the main class might return test currency, the class, or it returns whatever that's an instance of test currency, but this implements test currency, so it's going to be an instance of test currency, but it's also an instance of the custom class that you created that implements it. So it should just work. But we don't need this method here. I'm just showing you a way to basically get methods only from your plugin, assuming that whoever third-party plugin doesn't just add the main plugin jar to their plugin instead of the API. But if you wanted methods that aren't in the API, you'd add them in the implemented version of the API class, and then you can use it throughout your plugin just like this. But currently don't need to do that. So we'll just do that. But if you wanted to, that's how you do it. So we got that, and then now we're gonna do plugin dot get plugin get server get plugin manager dot call event, and then we're gonna say new currency event. You know what? We need to reload Gradle since we updated the, or actually I don't know if we built it here. We're building the API again with the event classes. There we go. Now it's there. So import. We're gonna put player and the amount in, just like that. So now we can do actually what we need to do is add currency event equals new add currency event player and then now we call that object, and then now we can say instead of the amount that we're adding, we could do event get amount. That way, if any plugin is listening and it changes the amount, you're getting the amount that was changed from the third-party plugin, and you're adding that instead of the amount that the player typed in the command. So to do that, and you can also go back to the API, you can make it cancelable by saying implements cancelable and implementing the methods here. You also don't necessarily need to implement cancelable. You can just add these methods on your own, but it's much easier. So we can do private boolean canceled, and we're gonna say it's not canceled equals false, and then we're gonna go down. Is canceled, return canceled. Set canceled, is not canceled equals canceled, just like that. And it might seem like a lot, like why use interfaces and everything until you realize cancelable itself is an interface, and you're doing the exact same thing that you were in your API in your plugin. So we're actually gonna say we're gonna move this up here. That way it's with our modifiable methods and stuff. And then we're gonna say we're just gonna leave this just below right there. Okay, and that is how you make an event cancelable, which we can do to everything else here as well. So copy, paste there, and paste here. I forget if we added a space. We did. Okay. Obviously, private boolean canceled. It's not canceled false, and don't forget to implement cancelable. There we go, and same thing here. Boolean canceled. It's not canceled, equals canceled. No, equals false, sorry. And then obviously implement cancelable. There we go. And now we build it again. There we go. And now we can do in our main plugin here, we can say if event is canceled, return true. So now it won't add the currency if the event is canceled. Just like in any other listener. Except you're not on the you're not manipulating it like a normal listener or event that you would listen to. You're instead calling it, so you're making it so that other plugins can listen to it. And then you're deciding what happens if the event is canceled. And if it's not canceled, then you can add the event. But since we're not doing anything, if it's canceled, we can say if it's not canceled, add, and then just return, just like that. So we're gonna do the same thing here. Copy this, and we're gonna say remove, set an amount to remove, amount, and then now we're gonna say remove currency event, import class, remove currency event, and then we don't need to change anything here except remove. There we go, and then now we're gonna do the same thing except for set. Select an amount to set, amount, set currency event. There we go, and again set, and then set. There you go. Now you have the whole command set up, and we can implement a tab completer. Since we're on 1.13 plus, implement methods. Yep, there you go. If sender instance of player return true, and we don't need to add the terminal. I mean, we don't need to add the player variable because we just don't need to do that. So return if arg.length is 1, return list of. I'm going to say add, remove, and set. Like that. There we go. This basically means if you typed in currency space, that means you're at arg position 1, and it's going to return add, remove, and set just above here. So it'd be set, remove, and add in the tab completer right here. So it'll let you hit tab to implement either one of these right here. And then you can select the amount here. And then we can actually say if args 2, return this 2 3, like that. There you go. As simple as that. Right, little command and everything. We just need to make the plugin.yml, which I have not made for this yet. Plugin.yml, main, package name, test plugin.test plugin. Name is equal to test plugin, API version, 1.20, and version 1.0. Author, put your username, and we'll do commands, currency, name, description, manipulate the player's currency, and we'll say this and then there. Okay, usage, currency, set, add, remove, set, amount, and of course you can check the balance by just typing in /currency. There you go, and we can add a permission if we wanted to, but I don't think it's necessary at the moment because this is just a tutorial plugin. So we got this. Alright, so we need to do little plugin command plugin get command currency command set executed as command set calculated as, and we'll say if command null return. There we go. So now we set the executor and the tab completer both to this class because this class implements both of them. There you go, there's our command. That's fine. And we of course need to call it new currency command this. We're gonna put that right there. Okay. So now we have this. We have our chat listener to add to the their balance whenever they send a message. We have the currency command to manipulate a balance and check the balance. And then we have the API implementation here. And of course, this isn't going to save across server restarts because we're not using a file or database to save to. We're just using a simple hash map. So there we go. And now we can go to the third-party plugin finally. We'll actually get back to this in a second after we test this here. And actually, what you need to do, I forgot about, in the build.gradle, you need to type implementation files, not compile only. Otherwise, you'd need the API jar on your as a plugin, which we don't want. And we also need to get a shadow. So I will be right back while I grab the shadow plugin. Alright, I'm back. And I've grabbed the shadow Gradle plugin here. And then we just need to type, we need to set it up. So shadow jar. We don't want to minimize it because we only have the one dependency, and you don't want to minimize your API. Otherwise, plugins will have a hard time grabbing the classes from it as they won't exist in your main plugin jar. So we don't want to minimize the API. So we'll just say, we don't need to relocate it either, because it's the same package names. So basically when you build the jar, it'll add the API classes to the main jar, and it will be an API, you will see the, basically you'll see this class, and you'll see the events package and the test API all in the test plugin.api folder in your main plugin, which we'll get to in a second. So you don't have to do anything really here, but I'm going to go ahead and set the archive class, set archive classifier to null. I don't know if that's something you shouldn't do, but it doesn't really matter to me. Depends on shadow jar. There we go. And then we'll reload Gradle. Everything should work fine. And there we go. And now we'll go ahead and tasks build assemble. There we go. So now we can go back to our project folder, go to the main plugins thing, build, libs. Here we go. Here's the project with the implementations, I believe. If we open with WinRAR here, close that. It's an advertisement. Okay. If we move it over, if it'll let me move it over. WinRAR likes to break on Windows 11, I found. So, yep, see, it crashed. WinRAR open, it's fine, just open it again. Yep, close that. There we go. Here we go. So we have our plugin OML, meta-inf pretty standard, and then we have our package test plugin, and you'll see we have the main class, the command class, the chat listener, and the API, which has the test API class, currency, test currency, and the implemented version, which is great. And we have the custom events. So the important thing about why you need to implement your API into your final plugin jar is so that it's not missing when people implement the API or compile, because I'll explain it once we actually get to making a third-party plugin. But we have this jar and we can test it over here by putting it in the plugins folder. We go up and then we can go ahead and run the server, which I'll do just 1 second. Okay, hello, I am back. Sorry, my Minecraft likes to take forever to shut up, but for you guys, it was no time at all. Anyway, so we have, you see here, test plugin is right there, and we can do currency, add remove set. That was our tab completer that we had here. Let's just do that. Balance is 0. Let's say add 1. There you go. Balance 1. Add 10. Balance 11. Remove 5, 6. There we go. Set to 0. And it's 0. And obviously we didn't add any negative checks, so we can set to -10 all we want, and it'll be negative, which is perfectly fine for this instance of the plugin. There we go, and we can try test. There we go, see, test. 4, there we go. Then we can go back to 0. But yeah, so you see it works pretty great. Now we just need to do a few changes that I realized while I was waiting for my game to start. But that's no problem at all, we'll get right to that. So let's go ahead and go back to our main project here. Close that out because we don't need it anymore. We're gonna go back here, and again, instead of this, we're gonna do this, and then test currency implementation. We're just doing a bit of like quality of life improvements here. So we're gonna do, instead of get public not get, instead of these methods here, we're gonna do public void set. I'm gonna do player long that, just that way it doesn't put the other method that uses the ID or the UID. We're gonna say I'm gonna go here, and instead of this, we're gonna go here. But now what we need to do is implement the actual test plugin class, right? Private final test plugin plugin test plugin right? And this plugin is plugin. Yeah, there we go. So now we can say set. There, the unique ID. There we go. Do that. So basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a new method in the implemented class to call the event automatically, instead of in the command. It'll be called whenever, from anywhere the event will be called. And there we go. Yep. and we'll make it return a boolean. Final boolean is canceled equals event dot is canceled. Right, if it's canceled, and then return is canceled. There you go. We'll do that. So that way, what's happening here is it calls the event, obviously, and then we're setting a variable to if it's canceled or not. And then if it's not, then we're gonna run the set method here. Otherwise it'll do nothing and just return that it's not, or that it's canceled. There we go. And we're doing the same thing for adding and removing. Right. So we'll do add currency event. There we go. I'm gonna set of course, and say add, and then set up remove. Set here. We're gonna do remove, import it, remove. There we go. And then remove. There we go. Perfect. So that way, now we don't actually need over here to say currency dot add. Instead of UID, we're gonna say player, or not add, sorry, this is set player amount. There we go. And now it'll be handled automatically. We do the same thing here. Currency dot remove player amount, because the remove subcommand. Same thing here. Player dot currency dot add player amount. And so the reason we made it return a boolean is so we could do something like this. If this player send message something is preventing you from adding a currency, right? And we'll just do that. Yeah, let's do that. And then we can do the same thing down here. Put an if in front of it. Like that. Something is preventing you from removing the currency. And then something down here, of course. If something is preventing you from setting a currency. Sorry, setting I guess 7%. Of course, and then we can say removing, adding, and if we really wanted to, we could make it send the player the amount that was actually added. Either we can make this method return the amount that was added, or we can send it here. Right? That way it always tells you. Send message removed plus amount. Right? Something like that. Let's put a plus and a negative instead. A little better. And set, of course. Set your balance. Your balance was set to, there we go. Perfect. So we do that. And we already have everything we need. We can remove these imports now. Let me go back to test plugin and put this just like that. Okay, and now this prevents people from calling the event when they set a currency in the API. There we go. Now we can say we can build this now, and we can say there you go. First, this is what I got plugged in. Plugin unload that's plugin. So, some people will say plugin breaks plugins, but that's only in plugins that don't handle their disabling methods properly, or that can't. Like some big plugins will have a reason why it breaks, and that it's not their fault necessarily. But a simple plugin like this, it will work just fine with disabling and loading during runtime. Currency, balance is 0. Guest, currency is 1. Currency add 10. Okay, so obviously this is false. We may have we need to figure out what's causing that real quick. I'll get right back to you on that one. Okay, I figured out we need to invert this like that. Actually, see, okay, yeah, add was already inverted. We just need to invert, remove, and set, and then we're good. That was my mistake. We actually, yeah, we added a mouse. So. Return true. Okay, yeah, I know why we need to return negative. Sorry, that's why. So this is we're returning negative here, so that makes more sense to us. And then we need to basically we're saying if it couldn't be added, instead of returning canceled, true means that it couldn't be added. So now we're returning the opposite of that. There we go. Now we built it. That's successful. Now we can go back into here, unload it, bring the folder back up, remove. It doesn't lag my computer. Okay, sorry about that. Remove it from the plugins folder, copy it from your libs folder, put it back in, and then you, nope, that's not what I wanted. I'm gonna add, I want to load it again. There we go. Currency back to 0, of course. Add 10 plus 10, balance is 10. Remove 10 minus 10, currency is 0, set 10, the balance is set to 10, currency, there we go. Perfect. Now we can make the third-party plugin to actually interact with and manipulate our main plugin via the API. So let's go ahead and close that. I don't need that anymore. So first thing we're gonna want to do, we don't need shadow because what we're doing is we're gonna go back to our main plugin. We're gonna build that gradle for that. We're gonna copy this since we're in the same directory, and we're going to paste it here, except instead of implementation, we're going to compile only because it's already on the server in the main plugin. So we don't need to implement it into the third-party plugin. You just need to make sure that it actually is there, or that the main plugin is actually there. So we'll say main third party, there we go, and then name third party version 1.0, API version 1.20, and we'll say we're gonna say soft depend as plugin. There you go. Usually this normally you'd put depend here because it requires this plugin, or the plugin that we're making right now is going to require test plugin, but I usually use stop depend so that I can handle that myself, and so it doesn't just disable the plugin with an error in console. I can handle it myself. I'll show you exactly how to do that. There we go here. We've already added the API. Go here. Sorry, not class package. Third party. Right. Third party. There we go. Then plugin, of course, same setup. Enable. Info. Third party enable. Public void on disable. Logger info. Third party disable. There we go. So now we can take this, we can go test API, right? Private API. this API. Well, actually, we're gonna say if get server, nope, get server, get plugin manager, get plugin, test plugin equals null. Server get plugin manager, disable plugin this. And we'll say get logger info. This plugin requires this plugin. There we go. And that's how you handle a dependency on your own without making it just depend, a hard depend. No, it's a sock depend, and you handle it on your own. So now we assume. Now it's safe to assume that the server has the test plugin in it. So now we can say API equals. Sorry, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, and this returns a plugin. So we're gonna say plugin equals this. If plugin is null. There we go. We're gonna say API equals test API plugin. And we'll rename this to test plugin, just so it makes more sense. There we go. Test plugin. Yeah. So now we have the API. Then we can do API.currency.add, set, get, remove, all that good stuff. And we'll make a getter here, public test API, test API, return API. And obviously we'll refactor this to test API just so that it's in case you have more you're doing with this plugin, you won't get confused with what it is. So now we can go here and implement listeners, right? New add currency listener, listener, and now we're gonna do public add currency listener, third party plugin. Now plugin get server, plugin manager, register, and this plugin. Event handler, public void on add currency. We're gonna say add currency event, just like any other Spigot/bucket event. Event get amount. We're gonna say event.set amount times 2. I'm gonna say private, sorry, final player equals event player. Right. If player has permission, third party double, just because why not? So now if they have the permission, it'll double every amount that they get from the add command or from chatting. So we can go back here and obviously go into our chat listener in the main plugin here. We can say dot say this currency implementation, right? So we're gonna cast this here, add event get player instead. So now it'll call the add currency event whenever they chat. And that's that. So we can build this again, and we're gonna add this to our server with the updated one. And now this third-party plugin will double what they get for chatting if they have the third-party.double permission. And obviously in a real plugin, you wouldn't want to, if you have a command to manipulate it, you might not want to call the event that would double it, since you're just doing if you're just doing whatever, you know. I'm gonna say if player that has permission, third party dot block event that set cancel true, and you're gonna return. Now, if they have this permission, then they're not allowed to get currency. And obviously, again, you wouldn't want to call the event on the main plugin here. Let's just go ahead and make that better. UID. So now you won't have this third-party listener interfering with your main command here. So I know we just did this, and that changing it's a little weird, but it's just, you know, you don't want to have your commands canceled, basically, is what's happening if I was to do this. But I'm just saying, you know, this is just an example of how you can have the event in the command, I guess. So look at that. Yeah, so again, this is the main command here. We can go back to the third party, right? Copy this, paste, set currency listener. Actually, we don't need to do that because that was just for the command. The add currency listener, whenever they chat, this is just what we're gonna do. Whenever they chat, they're gonna get double currency if they have this permission. But if they have this permission, then they're not allowed to have the currency. So yeah, we're gonna do that. Go back down here. New add currency listener. Yes, there we go. And we are all good to go. We can go ahead and assemble the third-party plugin. Assuming this is all good. Yep. Okay, so now we can go back to Minecraft, go over to our in a second here, we can do plugin unload plugin, and we want to do test. Delete that, copy it over from our project build folder, of course, and then we also want to grab third party build libs third party. Here is an example of what wouldn't work with Plugman, this third party plugin. If you were to load it without if you were to unload test while third party is enabled, it'll start erroring out because it requires test and it wouldn't find the classes since you unloaded them. So you would want to unload third party plugin before you unload the test plugin. So, and you would want to do the same thing. You want to make sure test is loaded before third party here. So now we say test balance, or sorry, currency. We have 0. You know why? Because we're opt and we have the permission. Permission set. Third party dot block. We're gonna set it to false. Test. And now we have no. Is that wrong? What's going on here? Okay, so some were wrong. Perhaps oh, okay, I see. Yes, okay, I see why. The problem is the test here. We need to change our event listener here. So we go chat listener. We need to change this because what happens is I'm calling an event here and you can't call an event when it's asynchronous. So we're just going to change this to player chat event and then it's going to work just fine. Right. So just remember that you can't call an event in an async method or anything. You can't call an event asynchronously. So now we're gonna go back here. We're gonna unload first the. I'm gonna set this back to. I'm gonna unset this as well. So we're back to square one basically. So unload third party. Unload third party. Unload test plugin. There we go. Back in here. Delete this. Go back to test build libs, copy this, paste, and plugin load test plugin and load third party. There we go. Test currency 0, right? And then if we set the permission here back to false, since I'm opt, you have to negate it. Test currency, now we have 2. Obviously it's saying +1 now because we need to because we in the test currency implementation we didn't change what amount was equal to, we just set event get amount, so we'll just change amount equals this amount. There we go. That is what we need to do. There we go. Same thing down here. Amount equals event get amount. No. Perfect. Once again, we can go ahead and put this back on our server to update it. This isn't necessary entirely. It's just to proof concept, I suppose. So unload. Obviously now test currency. I have 9 now because the event that third-party listener is unloaded. All right. There we go. Load, and now, load test +2, +2, +2, +2. Yeah. Currency is 8 because we just unloaded it, meaning we reset it because we don't have it stored in a file or anything to load back what we had. And now we can say, if we were to unset this from false, test, nothing was set, still at 10. And we set this to false again, test +2. Yeah. And now we can say, if we were to set double to false, then we just get the +1 that we normally get. So yeah, that's how you make not only a simple plugin, a custom object, and listeners, custom events, and obviously the external API, which is what this whole tutorial is mainly about. So hope it's helped. Hope you were able to understand a bit. Feel free to join my Discord, link in the description if you need any extra help. And I believe that's everything. We have the API class, which lets you get the test currency, the implemented test currency, which is this, and then well, lets you get the interface, but it gets you an implemented version of the interface. Because if we were to call new test currency, it would tell you to override all the methods and stuff. And then there's the custom events that we made. Pretty simple stuff. And that's about it. If you want to upload your API to GitHub, you can do that. Make it a public repo, or make it a public repository. Put it in, and then put it on Jetpack. You can do that, and then you can implement it into your plugin via Jetpack. Same thing with other people. In their plugin, they can compile the API into their own plugin. So yes, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully it helped. And again, Discord if you need help in the description. And I'll see you guys next time.